Hi, and welcome to Mark's Motivational Podcast for another Authors Tuesday. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by a great author from Scotland, Thane Lawrie. It's great to have you on the podcast today, Thane. Thanks a lot for joining me.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be with you, Mark. Thank you very much for asking me on.
No, thanks. It's a pleasure. And we might just start the podcast today just to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and about your great book you have out there at the moment, or it's nearly out. The Buddhist CEO. It sounds incredible. Sounds really, really good.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for that. Yeah. Well, I'm Scottish. I live in northeast Scotland. I've lived here all my life, just south of Aberdeen in the county of Aberdeenshire. And in my career, I ended up becoming a CEO myself. Became the chief executive of a fairly well-known third sector organisation, a not-for-profit organisation in northeast Scotland. And I also am a practicing Buddhist and have been for over 20 years. So I'm hoping that makes me well placed to write a book called The Buddhist CEO. But I took early retirement a couple of years ago, or about a year ago, just because I had a few health issues. Although I'm still involved with the company where I was CEO and the board. But it got me thinking now in a bit more spare time, could this be a good idea for a novel? This idea of a man who finds himself in I suppose, a highly stressful job, one he loves, being a CEO, also how he balances that with his spiritual beliefs and his Buddhist beliefs and his aspiration to lead as a Buddhist CEO. So that's how the novel was born. Could I write something along these lines? And it ended up being the novel it is now, The Buddhist CEO, which comes out in December 13th.
Great stuff. No, well done. It looks really, really good. And did it take you long to write it yourself, Thane?
It's an interesting question. It's not an easy answer. I actually wrote quite a little bit of it, well, quite a good bit of it when I was working as a CEO. And then I became ill. I had to sort of put it down for about a year. I picked it up again and finished it off about a year and a half ago. But it's kind of been written in bits and pieces. But I presume if I'd written it in one go, it would have taken 5 or 6 months. But because of the break, well, health, it took a bit longer. But I enjoyed writing it, and I just used to find time quite often early in the morning before I went to work and meditate maybe very early, 6, half 6, then write 45 minutes and head off to the office and maybe a half hour again at night. And just if you keep at it, it builds up and builds up. And before you know it, the whole thing's there.
Yeah, that's a great point you make there, because people that like write a novel seem like it's a massive, massive thing. But then, as you say, I love your strategy there. Like, just you don't feel it building up when you're taking in small chunks.
Yeah, it always seems to have suited me quite well. That my sort of, I don't know, my inspiration and motivation just kind of comes in bursts. And I suppose I very rarely write more than 1,000 words in a day, and quite often maybe 400 or 500 words in a day. I suppose a lot of the time after that, when I'm walking or just sitting drinking a coffee, I'm often thinking about what to do the next day. But I quite like to sort of think in that way, and then a sharp burst of enthusiasm and inspiration, and lay down a few words every day, and it seems to work for me.
Great stuff. Yeah, no, brilliant, brilliant. And can I just ask as well, like, are you going to self-publish this, or have you got a publisher that's publishing house that's doing it for you, Tyne?
Yeah, it's been published by Kohler Books in the United States.
Great
They're
stuff.
a smallish but reasonably well known publisher based in Virginia. So, yeah, so it's going to be available globally, or certainly in the English speaking
Brilliant.
world. It will be available on Amazon, Barnes Noble, Blackwell's. Um, I'm hoping it might get to some of the big stores as well. But at the moment, it's definitely going to be available online as a hardback, softback, and going to be a Kindle type book as well, an ebook as well. With hopes to maybe get an Audible book as well. That'll maybe come in the next few months. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping that there's a lot of interest in Buddhism,
Mm-hmm.
spirituality in general, maybe even just being moral, whether you're religious or not. And I've often
Yeah.
thought the book could have been in many ways, although it's my love of Buddhism expressed in it. I hope it
Mm-hmm.
might appeal to the Christian CEO or the Hindu CEO or the moral CEO, and
Yeah.
hopefully the struggles that the main character, goes through, a Scottish name, Hamish, the main character. And yeah, I'm hoping people could identify that with that, whether or not they're a Buddhist. They're trying to balance being moral, doing the right thing, and with his beliefs are Buddhist. But as I say, he could have other beliefs as well. It's the same kind of dilemma he has. How do I lead this? How do I take difficult decisions? How do I take decisions and maybe make some unpopular, the main character? But how does he balance this with being trying to be a compassionate, enlightened, um, mindful, positive leader?
Mm. Yeah, like because I love the part, and I was just reading it earlier on about the mindset, like because mindset is really important in any way of life, like and how did you bring that into the book yourself, Tane? Like the way you mentioned mindset.
Yeah, it's a good question, Mark. I suppose I've tried to. I suppose I've tried to explain to people who maybe aren't Buddhists, and just what kind of beliefs he had. And he follows a particular school called Soto Zen Buddhism. There's different
Mm.
schools of Buddhism that comes from Japan, but essentially it's about he meditates every day. He tries to be mindful, so live in the moment, and not get too caught up in the past or the future. He tries to be here and present. He tries to do that in his leadership journey. And I explain that a little bit in the book because the author he spends some of his spare time at a monastery and he converses with monks. It goes into a little bit about the conversations around that and the mindset he tries to achieve. But then it also explains to the reader, it's all the inner dialogue of Hamish, the main character, how he tries to bring that into his leadership role. And he feels he initially he thinks, should I become a CEO when he's offered the job? He didn't actually necessarily set out to be ambitious. What he finds is he's in his life, because he's diligent and compassionate and kind, and he finds he's quite good at doing things. He finds he can manage people and motivate people, get on well
Mm.
with people quite easily. Opportunities are open up for him, and until eventually a CEO opportunity opens up for him. He questions, are these two worlds compatible? And eventually he decides, well, actually, the Buddhist values have a place in leadership, have a place in business. And he decides, I'm going to try and lead like a Buddhist CEO. So it talks about how he tries to apply that to the workplace culture. He realizes that the company is struggling when he takes it on, and he realizes for it to improve, and it does improve greatly. He needs to treat people well, so he tries to develop a compassionate workplace culture where people are trusted to look after their own jobs. He empowers managers that weren't empowered before to take decisions. And there's a good feeling in the company, and it helps them turn it around. So that's the kind of
Mm.
mindset he brings to it. But there's a twist as time goes on. Despite treating people in that way, there always was a pocket of people don't treat him the same way back. That's why he gets into all these tricky situations that are described in the book. But that's the mindset he tries to bring in. Lead as a Buddhist, be compassionate, treat people well, be fair, but also maybe to have boundaries as well. Expectations that people should achieve in their roles to a certain level. But he tries to bring that a compassionate, kind mindset into the workplace.
Well, that's a really good message for anybody that is in that line of business or any kind of line of business. So thanks very much for that. That's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, because it kind of reminds me, I was listening to a podcast a while ago, or it was an ebook about like who created let me think, like meditation and mindfulness. Like it was a really good book. I can't remember the monk's name, but he um he 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 really done so well using mindfulness.
Yeah, yeah. I think certainly from my own life, I believe that meditation and mindfulness, particularly meditation, is one of the most powerful things that anybody can do. And I would always hope if you meditate, make you a slightly better Buddhist, make you a better Christian, make you a better atheist, and make you a
Of
better
course.
moralist. I think if anybody
Mm,
meditated, I just always feel it gives you a sort of groundedness. And I
mm,
try and do it every morning, early in the morning. And a lot of the
right.
monks I've met have said you're better off doing 1 minute a day than doing 15 minutes every 20 days. Just get into a little
Mm,
pattern, bit of routine. And on the days when I don't meditate, and certainly the character in the book says that he notices a difference on those days and he doesn't meditate. It's just a subtle feeling. I think it just helps to sort of calm me
Mm,
down, calm the main character down in the book, just to sort of give you a groundedness. So it's a powerful thing. It's a powerful
mm.
thing. It definitely brought a lot of joy to my life.
Great stuff. That's great, Yeah, because I'm sure people will really get a lot of benefit from reading the book. I know it's a character that you've created, but like I can see how people really will resonate with them. You know.
I really hope so. I really hope so. I
Yeah.
think he's a likable character, Hamish, the
Yeah.
main character. But he's in some ways, I sometimes think the book raises more questions than it gives answers. I think that's to be a
Mm,
good thing.
yeah.
I think it get people to consider themselves,
Mm,
their own role as a leader. And that, okay, he's a CEO, but we're often leaders. But we're all leaders in some way, whether we're a parent and maybe graduates a certain leadership role with family, or we run as scouts, a football team, or you
hmm
know, I mean, we're members of a club, or whatever. But we often find ourselves in leadership roles, and I think it might make people question how they do that. And I think it
hmm
might also make them question about how should they act as an employee as well. There's some
mm,
darker sides to the story where he gets into really sort of difficult positions where senior leaders plot against him, even make secret recordings of him. And one part of the book, he's even taken to court, and he sort of really is in a turmoil. But I'm a Buddhist CEO, and people aren't seeing what I'm trying to do and try to deal with that. But I think a lot of leadership stuff is talking about positive leaders. I think that's absolutely right because a Boolean culture, or we know that exists in many workplaces, unfortunately. And
hmm
it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
horrible, horrible thing.
It is.
But
Yeah.
also maybe question, just flip it slightly in parts of the book. How should employees? We should all have this, not just the leaders. We should all try and
Mm,
interact positively with it, with the sort of culture in our workplace. And I also think there's few. Certainly, many Buddhist books are written by monks. Now, I'm a huge supporter of monks. The book is highly praising of monks, and the main character visits a monastery retreat for 1 week and his holidays and things like that, and gets a hell of a lot from it. But I think there's something about I would sort of call myself as a lay person, a Buddhist is not a monk, just living in the world like everybody else.
yeah.
It's sort of written through that kind of lens, that there are people who aren't monks who are still trying to live this good life, still trying to really put these things into practice. I hope it
hmm
makes people. I think we've all had some dilemma at work where we've thought, does this fit with my moral values? Whether you're a Buddhist or just a moral person in general, or you follow a spiritual practice or a religion. So I just hope it makes people sort of think about that and how they face that. And yeah, so I hope it makes people think on a number of levels.
No, that's great, Tane. Thanks very much for sharing with everybody. That's brilliant. And can I just ask as well, Tane, where did the journey begin for yourself as a writer? Have you always written yourself? Have you always been a writer?
Haha, it's funny. I've often, when I first met my wife, we've been married for 22 years now, and our kids are 24 and 18, so
Mm.
they're older. But before I met her, she always reminds me, I always said I was going to write a book. But when kids arrived on the scene, it
Yeah.
kind of got put in the back burner for a little bit. But
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of got in the way. Life got in the way.
Mm.
But I always played around with little short stories and things like that. And I always sort of kept my hand in writing. It's always there. And when
Mm.
they grew up, in, the last few years, I've become a bit more serious about it. And then I had this idea for the Buddhist CEO, and I thought, like, this is the time to do it. I've said all my adult life, one day I would do it, and let's bite the bullet and do it now. So yeah, writing's always interested me. Reading certainly always interested me since my reading books and since about my mid-teens. So yeah, I've always been interested in sort of literature and writing and
Mm.
reading. It's a great thing. Very, I always think it's very therapeutic. I think just sitting,
Mm.
writing,
Mm.
creating a character, creating a story, and I think even if it doesn't go anywhere, it's still a nice thing to do to sit and write
Yeah.
something. It's just a nice thing to do.
Ah, brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. And is this your first book yourself, Tane? Have you any other books out there yourself?
No, this will be my first book. Yeah, my first
Okay.
book. I'm hoping it might be the first of many, but
hmm
we'll see. I've started writing a second book, which I see as a sort of continuation of this book, actually. The
Great.
story,
Yeah.
the same character. I see the books as being, you could read them quite separately and still enjoy them, but there'll be
Mm,
a flow from this book into the next book. I haven't named it yet, but I'm only a few chapters in. But I really
mm,
enjoyed the experience of writing this book, and yeah, it's a funny feeling. I mean, I can still remember saying to my wife, "I'm going to write a book," and probably in her mind and probably the back of my mind, thinking, "Well, will we ever get there?" But yeah, just
yeah.
slowly, as I said earlier on, a few hundred words a day. It's slowly built up, and
Mm,
yeah, it's quite exciting now. A little bit of intrepidation as well, I suppose, as the book goes forth into the world. It's
mhm,
and our thoughts are revealed, and it's quite public and it's quite open now. So
mm,
I just hope it's well received, and
yeah.
it makes somebody happy one night sitting reading a book.
Great stuff, because I'm going to share it on the notes for people to when it does come public, you can send me the link and I can share it everywhere for you as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Oh,
Appreciate
of
that.
course. No, great. And I know you kind of mentioned earlier about the strategy. You have a couple of hundred words a day, but can I just ask you as well, Tane, like, has there ever an opportunity when or a time when you were writing that book that you kind of hit a metaphorical wall, or like you kind of got stuck, and how did you overcome that if it happened to you?
Yeah, it probably did happen to me. I mean, I actually, cut a long story short, I had to take I had to retire actually, sort of semi-retirement. So I have this sort of
Mm,
neurological condition. It has affected me enough to retire, but I can feel sort of tired at times and it comes and
mm,
goes. So what I've actually found is there are periods when this sort of this illness I have, it's called FND, functional neurological disorder. You probably haven't heard of it, but it kind of
mm,
comes and goes, and you can feel great for a few months and it comes back. So sometimes I find when I feel that fatigue that comes back, I just have to put it down. And sometimes it's maybe 1 or 2 weeks
mm,
it lasts for, and I just know that I'm just not quite creatively on it, I suppose. And
mm,
so I've had to sort of deal with that, and I've learned not to try and write when I feel that way. Just better just to sort of yeah, just put it down. Still thinking of the plot and still thinking about what I could do. But
mm,
in that sense, I haven't put it down. But so I had to deal with that, and that can last a few weeks. Sometimes then just I feel the energy coming back, and I just get going again. So it's not
right.
quite maybe a writer's block as some people experience. It's just something I'm sort of having to live with at the moment. But
Mm,
yeah, so I've certainly had to work with that in the way through, which has made it. Oh, I don't see it as a bad thing. That in some ways it's I suppose it maybe just I try and view these things as just just reality. I suppose it's a Buddhist way
part
of
of it.
looking at it. It's just what
Mm,
is, and
yeah.
I've never really looked upon it as good or bad. But sometimes I think it gives you a chance to ponder where you're at and just reflect upon things
Hmm.
and move
Mm,
on. But I've just tried to use that to my advantage. I think just as I would
yeah.
most things.
Yeah, that's a great outlook. Great outlook, Tane. Yeah, thanks very much. And can I just ask as well, kind of what kind of keeps you inspired in your writing as well? Like what inspires you most?
That's interesting. What inspires me the most? I suppose there's a few things maybe on a sort of global sort of sense and also in a personal sense. I think I had to retire in my late 40s, which was very unusual and very unexpected. And
Mm,
I suppose to a lot of people who knew me, that was probably quite a surprise because I was the chief executive of a company. Or I think
mm,
back at something I was sat on all these different boards, locally and nationally, and I really like being involved in things. And in hindsight, I was probably
mhm,
doing too much actually. Although I was coming at it all with a positive, it was all charities I was involved in and boards and things like that. It was all national things that are trying to make a difference, hopefully to people in society. But I suppose that motivation, despite having to
mm,
retire, has never left me. That desire to do something worthwhile. So I'm
mm,
still on the board of the company where I was chief executive. I'm on another board locally as well. So that's kept my hand in. And I just feel as if this desire not to sort of let go of that. I always feel you need to work towards something and feel you're contributing. I think the writings allow me to do that, just through a story, ties in with the sort of health issues I have. So I
mm,
can sit on my own, I can control my own pace. And it just works out perfectly. But I feel like, by contributing, producing a book, you're still contributing hopefully to people's happiness, producing
mm,
ideas, make people think, and something in that. But I think also being a Buddhist as well has really been a huge part of my motivation. In the book, my main character, who's quite like me, he's not me, but he's quite like me, but he talks about his love of all things Buddhist. And I have that as well, that, yeah, I'm a Buddhist, but I sort of love being a Buddhist. And by that, I mean, I love the sort of coming down early in the morning and sitting on a proper meditation stool. I love lighting incense. I love reciting certain scriptures. I love just that whole
Mm,
sort of formal practice of it. And even just
yeah.
being mindful and having that with me all day. Yeah, ways we can sort of bring that all into everything you do when you're cooking your food. And he talks about that in
Mm,
the book as well, actually. It's a very much a part of Zen monasteries, how you prepare food mindfully and diligently and not waste things. And I don't know, just some of that, just I find it in my everyday life, and I've absorbed that in a way that gives me a peacefulness. It keeps me, yeah, it keeps me going, keeps me very positive, um, keeps me grounded, and keeps me motivated, and just gives
mm.
me a real energy and a spark to do things. Hopefully, even though I'm not quite as well as I was, I'm still have this desire to contribute, and these things all help.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah, no, it's a great answer. I'm getting a bit of feedback on the earphones here. Sorry, you can hear me okay?
Yeah, it seems fine at my end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry. No, and as well as that, can I just ask you, Tane, how did you find I know the last 2 years have been a bit a bit funny, bit all over the
Yeah.
place with the COVID. Like, did you find that a struggle with your writing, or how did you cope with that yourself?
Yeah, I think COVID was a real struggle, and I suppose part of being a Buddhist, although I feel peaceful in that, part of it's been very honest as well. And I certainly
Mm,
didn't come through COVID completely unscathed. I don't think. I mean, I had COVID myself just a few months
mm,
ago, and thankfully I wasn't
sorry to hear
too
that.
ill with that. And all my family have had it, but nobody was particularly ill. So thankfully from
Good.
that
Thank God. Yeah.
perspective, things were okay. But I think it's yet to be understood and even unravelled how deeply people in society were affected by COVID. I think that's still ongoing, and I
Mm,
wonder if it'll emerge over the next few years when people study it, psychologists and that. And I just get a sense it was a really. I'm not against the governments, and by governments I mean
mm,
Western governments. I think most of them took a similar approach, in Ireland, Britain, America, wherever.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
that there was a lockdown for certain periods, and part of our liberties were sort of taken away at times. And I think it was a hard job, and I accept that. But there's little things, that just made me realise there were just little joys in life that maybe I hadn't, even as a Buddhist,
Mm,
hadn't appreciated. There were joys that, meeting a friend for a cup of coffee in a coffee shop with a big bit of cake. When that was taken away from me, I realised how much I miss
yeah.
it, And even we
Yeah.
used to sort of joke when me and my boys were Aberdeen Football Club fans, and we used to say, what would we do to go to Pittodrie and watch Aberdeen in a day of pouring rain and Aberdeen are getting beat? We'd still love it once it had been taken away. We thought, oh, how
Mm,
much we missed it. And
I
yeah,
know.
I think it's had a. I think it's. I saw some of our elderly neighbours as well, who are great friends of ours, living on their own, and we
Right.
couldn't go out and see them and things like that because you weren't allowed to engage with people in that way, or you could stand and speak from the street. But I often felt people maybe looked a bit older, a bit jaded. I'm not entirely sure it's come back for everybody. So
Mhm.
it was a difficult time, and I think Buddhism and meditation helped me get through that. But certainly, I felt the
Mm,
effects of it, and I still think they're ongoing. I certainly hope as a society we don't have to go back into those situations
oh, no.
again. I think that depends upon, well, how the virus mutates and things like that. But yeah, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it at all.
No, 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 because like, did your writing was your writing affected in any way? I know a lot of people like like to go out in the fresh air and like go for walks and get inspiration that way. Can kind
Yeah,
of help them, can't they? Can't they?
yeah. I mean, that's true. I suppose you had nothing else to do, but you could go out for a walk and things like that. Yeah, I think it did.
Mm,
Yeah, it did. It did. It did in some ways. Yeah, I suppose
mm,
it's kind of a strange time. I suppose that I was at the point where I'd kind of finished the book. And I was actually sending it out to publishers at that point, and
mm, okay.
I was making a start on the second book. But I think in hindsight, now you've asked me, I suppose I've never really thought about it, Mark, but I maybe struggled with writing the second book. Maybe it just took me a little while longer to get going with it. I was
Mm,
out walking and things like that in nature, but as I say, just something about that feeling of missing things like the cups of coffee and just going about my normal business. Maybe just, I think it just subtly changed my motivation. I certainly didn't become depressed or anything, but I was just slightly less motivated. And I think really the second book is probably really got going with that once lockdowns and that were stopped. So it maybe had a little bit of a dampening effect on my writing. Now I think back on it. Yeah, although I was quite busy with sending it out to publishers, and you know, a lot of your listeners are probably writers themselves, but it's a long process itself. It maybe sounds easy. You're sending a book off to publishers. I'm sure you all know that it's a long time, and everybody wants a different sort of format and different filled in. And you wait to hear back from people, and they don't hear back, and then you do. It's a long process, so it kept me quite busy. But yeah, I think COVID definitely dampened my spirits slightly, including my writing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like it affected so many people in a lot of different ways, and like as I'm sure you share, my heart goes out to anybody who was affected,
Yeah,
bad with health or health complications
yeah,
and stuff like that. You know, it's been very tough, very tough. But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, and as well as that, no, thanks a lot for sharing your book. And it looks amazing. I can't mention that enough. It's great. And can I just ask you as well? Have you ever been involved in any writers groups yourself, Tanya? Have you ever during COVID or anything, have you ever done that?
I suppose I'm new with the first novel to this world, but I haven't been involved with writer groups as yet, and
No.
I am open to that. However, what I have been involved in, one of the greatest joys of this experience has been other writers reaching out to me. Quite often, them finding me by accident, or occasionally me finding them by accident. So there's a few authors that are, yeah, have reached out to me who heard of the book, primarily probably saw me on social media, or they heard me sort of speaking about the book there. And yeah, so there's some authors in America who've written books on Zen Buddhism. Have reached out to me. It's like an English guy who's in Oman, written a couple of Buddhist books. He heard about me and reached out to me. And there's also a couple of the book, obviously, Buddhism also has the CEO, the leadership part of it as well. There's a few leaders have reached out to me. And I've been having Zoom. So in the last few weeks, I've had Zoom calls with leaders in India twice,
Right.
Oman, America, and that's been a really unexpected kind of joyful. It's not a group as
Right.
you're talking about. We've just got into some of these American writers. We've actually zoomed each other, on multiple times now. And it's a bit of a regular thing, and talking about their writing and my writing, and it's really been quite an unexpected side of this actually. So I've really quite enjoyed that. Yeah, speaking to these people.
Right. And it's a really kind of key selling points you mentioned on your blog you sent me there earlier on, like large market and interest in Buddhism, obviously, and spirituality and personal development. The
Yeah,
personal development stuff is something I'm involved in as well. Like it's a great thing. Like I don't know if you've come across stuff like NLP and hypnosis and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Um, because that's the kind of thing road that I'm going down myself.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm a great believer in all these things. I think you've got to. I'm certainly very open-minded to these things, and certainly this condition I've got, functional neurological disorder. Quite clear that I don't mean this as a criticism at all. The modern medical world has kind of been scratching their heads a little bit. There's people with me all over the world. Some of them are very debilitating side effects of it. But medication doesn't seem to work. But it seems to be things like meditation. I know some people have tried hypnosis. I've tried a few other things like yoga, just sort of being grounded
Mm.
physically. Seems to be these more, what some people might call alternative treatments, seem to have more of an effect on some of these neurological conditions. So I'm a great supporter of these things.
Yeah, like the holistic medicine type things can be very strong as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. This whole kind of thing, it's happened to me. Let's
Mm.
say you can choose. I always believe you can choose to let these things affect you
Mm.
negatively. I wouldn't want Indy to have, what I'd gone through with the kind of illness and things like that. It's not a good thing. However, I've chosen to look at it more of a positive way. Well, it's caused me to slow down. I've probably gone too
Mm.
much. And it's caused me, I was open minded anyway, but maybe even more open minded to the holistic treatments you're talking about there. I've sort of looked at my diet. And have I got a perfect diet? No, but I've
Mm.
looked at more eating different foods and
Mm.
thinking about my energy and trying some of these different treatments. I've tried shiatsu, I've done yoga, obviously doing my meditation, and I think these things have actually helped me more. I did try a couple of medications previously, and they didn't really help at all. So I think it's a great. I suppose Buddhism to some degree talks about that. Very much the talk about a preceptual life as the 10
Mm.
Buddhist precepts, or certainly in my school of Buddhism. That's just really things like being, living well, not too much alcohol, and
Mm.
being compassionate. If you go through the whole 10 of them, but something about living that sort of, I suppose you could say in modern language, that is describing a holistic lifestyle, I
Mm.
suppose, and
Yeah.
looking after yourself, your mind, your body, being compassionate, caring, thinking about others, which I think then helps you because you feel good about yourself and things like that. So I
Definitely.
think there's
Definitely.
something in that kind of live that way is
Mm.
good for
Mm.
yourself and good for others.
Oh, great. Yeah, exactly. Tiny, I can't agree with you more. And as well as that, like I love that the part where you're saying about people in management and CEO positions can really help these as well, and companies you know who have this mindset can improve their work situation.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I think one of the things I see, I'm on LinkedIn. I quite like being on LinkedIn, which is
Mm.
a social media site. I'm sure many of your listeners will know, but
Yeah,
primarily it's a
yeah.
sort of, I suppose it's like a business or a work orientated social media site. And a
Mm.
lot of stuff on there about leadership, and I agree with lots of it. But a lot of it's talking about the CEO, how he or the senior leader should treat the staff in the company. Now, it's absolutely correct. And the book kind of addresses that. However, it also addresses how should a company treat the CEO? Because the CEO is also human, and the
Mm-hmm.
CEO also has fears and difficulties, and it goes into that in the book as well. And I think there's maybe a question there to think, well, hang on, if the CEO is looking after everybody else, who's looking after him or her?
Yeah.
And it poses that question as well. I think that's often forgotten, actually.
Mm.
Senior managers are human too.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so it
It
poses that question as well.
kind of like do you mean like it starts from the top down, really Tane, like once the CEO is looked after and in good spirits and has good morale, it can spread down to everybody else. Is that
Yeah,
what
I
you
mean that.
mean?
I think the CEO has got to be, should always be the sort of lead by example.
Mm.
But I've certainly seen in companies, maybe people are forgetting about the CEO's well-being or the
Yeah.
senior leadership team's well-being, whereas
Mm-hmm.
they're being encouraged by a board of directors, maybe to they've been asked or tasked to ensure the well-being of everybody else.
Mm.
Often they're working longer hours, stressed out, and they quite often, certainly in my experience, and that's what there's one of the chapters in the book called the Fellowship of the CEOs,
Okay. Yeah.
because the Buddhist CEO Hamish he begins to struggle with his job, and although he's enjoying it, he's made a huge impact in the company. He's turned it around. Some of the negative things he's had to deal with, so I know these plots against him between their managers, have really affected him. And he feels as a CEO he can't easily reach out to anybody else because he's the CEO. He's there to
Mm.
support them. So he reaches out to other CEOs in similar types of organizations. And he finds that they, although they're often inspirational people who are, highly proficient at their jobs and have made a great contribution, when he gets to know them, he realizes they're struggling too. They're starting to think, gee, what is the stress? Is this affecting me? And how's it affecting me? And so he creates this fellowship of the CEOs. He calls it the fellowship of the CEOs, where there's about 10, 12 other CEOs agree to come together in confidence in a very professional way to sort of share their difficulties because there's nowhere else where they can find that
Mm.
space to do that easily. And he gets so much from that. He's inspired by other CEOs. But at the same time, he recognizes on one level, this is his take on it, although they're all inspirational people in their own right, they're almost all dealing with some form of illness, he thinks, either overstressed or possibly depressed. He's guessing and making judgments, but he can see the stress of the job in them all. is having some negative effect upon them. Although they might view their CEO roles as positive, there's some deep level when you get close to these people, he realizes they're all struggling.
Mm. Yeah. Like so, like, are you kind of making the message just to get it right, Tane? You know, the kind of message I take from what you're saying is that, like, if like, just say you're a manager, or like if you consult with other people that are in the same position as you, that can kind of help you kind of help each other, really.
Absolutely, yeah. That's one of the messages in the book. Yeah, so it's very
Mm,
much about being a
that's a
positive
great
leader and the
message.
impact that'll have on it. It's also that leader finding those supports themselves, you know.
Mm,
He finds it from other CEOs, and he finds being able to talk through difficult issues with 10 other people who have in a similar type role. Often they can come up with an idea you hadn't thought of, and it's a good idea. He finds that
mm,
more beneficial than formal training. There's different courses you can do, but he feels none of them get under the bonnet, is the term he
mm.
uses in the book and the story, that you really get to speak to these people, the nitty gritty of the day to day difficulties they face. He just loves that kind of learning and support he finds amongst the fellowship of the CEOs.
Yeah, that's great. And I just want to mention, I love the cover of the book as well. Yeah, I just said I love the cover of the book. It looks great. Who done the illustration for you of the cover?
It was Kohler Books, and their member of staff there, Lauren, who's their designer. She was absolutely brilliant. I think Lauren Sheldon is her name. She works for Kohler Books, and
Yeah.
they were absolutely brilliant that process, because I'm so happy with the cover of the book. I must say, I really am very pleased with it. I always had an idea. So they asked for my ideas for the book, and they had their own ideas. And
Mm,
Lauren came up with maybe five different versions to start with. And then we actually whittled it down to two, which Kohler Books then put out on a poll, actually, and to the public, and people voted on it. And that was the favourite one. But
great.
I always envisaged it would be, I suppose the book is in many ways, is a juxtaposition between the old world of Buddhism, and Hamish, in the modern world of leadership. You know, he's trying to sort of make these two possibly different, very different worlds, um, balance the two of them, I suppose. And they always had this thought of a man who very much looked like a modern man in a suit, and I think he's got a briefcase as well. And I always thought it would look quite good if he was walking through one of these. I love these old
Mm,
Chinese, Japanese sort of Zen art paintings, you know, with the
yeah.
mystical mountains. So I don't know if your listeners can often can see that later on, but basically it is a modern man with a suit
Mm,
a briefcase standing there looking onto a mountain scene, but it's all drawn in a pencil. I just think
yeah.
I think it sums up the feeling of the book beautifully,
Great
actually.
stuff. Do you have a cover of the book with you so you can show
I do
the
actually,
listeners,
yeah.
or the people watching on
By
YouTube?
absolute chance, I've got it
Yeah.
there. So let
Oh
me
wow,
see.
that's great. It's absolutely
Nice.
brilliant.
There's
Yeah.
the mountains there, and the Buddhist CEO there looking at the mountains we shooting at. So hopefully
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
great. It looks, and did you have, like, you chose the kind of the front, really, or was it
Well,
was
I
it
mean, I gave her that. I gave
the idea?
Lauren that idea that
Yeah.
of the person in the hills. But to be honest with you, that is actually far better than I imagined it in my mind. So she
Mm,
took what I said to her and just come up with a few designs, and that was the one that I loved. And as soon as I saw it, I thought that's the one. That's just it. And it's actually better than I imagined myself. So I have to
yeah.
credit to her creative mind there coming up with that. So I'm really pleased with the book. Really pleased with the cover.
Yeah, yeah, because it's amazing the work they do, isn't it?
Oh,
Tane, like
that's
because with my own book, I did a children's book there a couple of years ago, and, like, like, my daughter done the front cover, like a picture for it,
brilliant.
but then I
Oh,
sent it
magic.
off, and the job they do is incredible, really, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is incredible. I mean, I kind of never really appreciated, or maybe in one level I did, but not fully, just how much the publisher does for you, and just how
Mm,
helpful they've been, and just helping to edit the book, the first novel, the tips they gave, and just
yeah.
things they saw, maybe just could be tweaked here and there, and then the cover
Mm,
itself. And I really kind of feel really deeply appreciative to Kohler Books. They've really, I
right.
really feel they were really good to me, and I really enjoyed working with them. But yeah, they do a
Mm,
lot of work behind the scenes. I mean, maybe naively, when I finished my book, I thought I'd sit. Little did I know I was just starting, really. As so much comes after that,
Oh
finding
God, yeah,
the edit in the book, the cover. It's gee whiz,
yeah,
you're just halfway there, if that.
yeah. That's when the real work begins with the editing, doesn't
Absolutely, yeah.
it? Yeah, yeah. Excuse me, sorry. And did it take you long to find a publisher yourself, Tina? Was it
It took a little
a
while.
struggle?
I'll be quite honest.
Yeah.
I had a few offers, but I sent the book out to a number of people in the
Mm,
UK, certainly the UK and America in particular, and I think I had 4 or 5 offers in the end. But Cola Books is who I went with. But I think the harsh reality is when you're unknown in the publishing world, you're unknown in the writing world, you're just one of many people trying to be
yeah,
noticed. So I just feel really quite lucky I found a publisher who believes in the book, really. And yeah, hopefully, as you begin to, if I do, people do like it and begin to develop a following, I think the second book will be easier. So I do have a deal with Cola Books for the second book
yeah,
to be published with them, and I'm very happy with that. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy getting noticed, and it's not
no,
easy. I don't think it's necessarily easy the other side, the publisher
no,
side as well, because I think although I don't know many people that have written a book across
mm,
the globe, there's many people writing books and they're
mm,
inundated with books, and even I suppose just actually identifying what's a good book and what isn't a good book is very, very difficult. You hear these stories of well, I think J.K. Rowling sent Harry Potter to
mm,
40 or 50, and I think there's a guy who wrote Shuggy Bain won the Booker Prize last year. I think I read he sent it to many people before they once somebody actually saw something in it.
yeah,
So I had a bit of luck with that, and I think the guy who wrote Shuggy Bain actually said that. I forget the author's name, but he said it landed on somebody's desk that eventually identified with the story. Well, at Kohler Books, one of their acquisitions editors, Greg Fields, who's been a great help to me, it landed
mm,
on his desk, and I knew it connected with him because he emailed me straight away and said, "Could you tell me more about this book?" Which nobody else had really done. So I told him a bit more about it, and he said, "I'm excited about this. I'm going to read it." And then he came back to me, and that was him. He put forward to Cola Books to sign a deal with me. But the luck is, he used to be a CEO himself of a large charity in Washington, D.C. Um,
I didn't realize that. Yeah,
I know, and so he identified with it, and he joked to me. He said, "I'm actually my wife always says to me, you're a Catholic, but you're really a Buddhist." So he was interested in Buddhism and leadership, and it just
right.
hit the right desk. I think it might have been the first person at the publisher side that actually had a background in leadership, had been a CEO, had an interest in Buddhism, and it just connected. So sometimes I think it just takes a bit of luck for your book to land on the right desk that somebody identifies with what you've written.
It was meant to be, Tane. Like it was meant to be.
I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah. Because I know Greg. Greg has been on the podcast
Of
before,
course, yeah, of course, yeah.
and then he's involved in the Ink Slingers. It's the writers group that was created a couple of years ago. Which I recommend any writers and like yourself as well who could maybe check it out sometime. It's I can share the email with you as well for the person who holds it. Like it's fun. It's really good. They get like every Saturday morning they give you a prompt to work off for half an hour, and it's incredible the amount of great stories come out of these prompts.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really
I
good.
would like you to share that. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm forgetting. Greg as well. Of course, yeah.
yeah,
He's certainly been a great connection for me, and we're
mm,
still keep in touch. And I know he visits Ireland
hmm,
regularly, and I think we are hoping we might actually meet up either Ireland or Scotland when he comes over next year. So I'm kind of hoping we'll get. I've met him in Zoom like this on many occasions, but I'd
yeah,
love to meet him and shake his hand and say thank you.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But now when is your book coming out, Tiny? And when is
It's the
book?
13th of December. You can't
Okay.
pre-order it now, but yeah, it won't be available until the 13th of December.
And are you going to have a book launch yourself, Tiny? Have you that organized?
I might do. I'm organising that at the moment. I mean,
Yeah.
I might hold something locally in the city of Aberdeen, but I'm
Mm,
doing. There's quite a lot of publicity going out there. There's quite a lot of publicity
right.
will be coming out
Brilliant.
from the end of November onwards. So I'm hoping the first 3 months will be quite busy. So, there's a lot of publicity going out to all the oh, bloggers and podcasters in America, Canada, because I think there's a huge market for it over there, and obviously my publishers in America. So there's a big campaign kicking off at the end of November.
Brilliant.
So I'm hoping this is, well, this is being on your podcast, I've had two or three, but it's beginning to build up, and I think it'll get busier over time. So
Great.
I might have a launch in Aberdeen, just a sort of, a smaller sort of launch, but I'm doing a lot on social media as well, and there's going to be this big publicity campaign kicking off at the end of November. So I'm hoping I'll appear in podcasts. I hope it'll generate interest. It seems to be and I never really thought of this at the time. It just was the natural title, but the Buddhist CEO seems to grab people's attention. So I'm
Great.
hoping the concept in of this two worlds sort of colliding and trying to make sense of it all does appeal to people.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I wish you all the best, the success going forward with it as well. It's really, really great. And can I'm going to ask you a couple of favorites before we end the podcast today. A couple of your favorites, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite book or favorite author you like to read yourself? Thane?
I am a huge fan of Peter Matheson, the American writer, and sadly he died a few years ago. But I must admit, he was somebody I would definitely have asked to endorse my book. Whether he would have done, that's another story. But I think he wrote some of his books are brilliant. My favourite book is The Snow Leopard by Peter Matheson. Now, not only was he a great writer, he was, I think he was an ordained Zen Buddhist priest at the end of his life. Although he very much lived his life in the wild, he was married and he lived near, well, I think he lived in Long Island, just outside New York. And his book, The Snow Leopard, is, I think it's similar to my book, but probably not many people would agree with that. But so in my book is the CEO's inner journey, whereas the Snow Leopard is it's actually written through his eyes. I think he goes on a trip to really, really remote parts of Tibet on a field journey with his friend who's a professor in biology, and it's all about their journey. They actually look out for these really rare sheep, like a blue sheep. He's actually looking out for snow leopards when he's there. It's all about his inner dialogue. This journey sounds fantastic, but actually end up in -20 in a tent, are miserable, and he's trying to sort of use his Buddhist practice to sort of get through that. And at the same time, I suppose that juxtaposition between, I suppose, Hamish, the CEO, and the Buddhism, he's that juxtaposition between cold and miserable, but he's in this beautiful place, stunning mountains, bitterly cold at the same time. When he meets his sort of Tibetan lamas up in the mountains, he ends up meditating with some of them in these little wee temples. I don't know, it just blew me away. So I've read some of his other books as well. They're all, well, some of them are Buddhist based, but a lot of them are about nature. He was a great bird watcher, and some of his travels into the world and into the natural world, and I just love him. I just love all his books.
Yeah, you can't beat books on nature. Absolutely great. Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. Yeah, no, that sounds really good. The snow leopard. I must have a look out for that one.
Yeah, I would thoroughly recommend it. Yeah, thoroughly recommend it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And your favorite music as well. Do you have any favorite music or bands do you like to listen to?
So my favorite music. Wow. I suppose I'm quite traditional. I've got an 18-year-old son who listens to all the rap music and that.
I have
Tries
the
to open
same.
his door, and some of the words I hear, I close it again quite quickly. But I quite like some of the old folk music. I mean, I actually, in old days gone by, I would have listened to Dubliners. I love the Corries, the folk music, the Scottish Corries. I was sort of brought up in Christmas Day in my house, and we were going to our grandparents' house. We always ended up the Christmas meal and the Corries getting played and some of those tunes. But more modern stuff, I suppose, like I've always liked things like Pink Floyd, especially the classics, Led Zeppelin, people like that. But to me, more a classical sort of stuff.
Great stuff. Yeah. Have you been to any? Have you ever seen Led Zeppelin live? Have you ever seen?
No, I saw Pink Floyd once. I saw them in London in 1994, a long, long time ago. I saw them play at one of the big arenas in London. It's just got out of my head now. But yeah, I saw them when I was probably 1994. I was probably about 20, 21 then, 22, 21, 22. That was
Sounds brilliant. Yeah.
Big thing. seen a few. I saw Bob Dylan playing Aberdeen
Oh, yeah, yeah.
a few years back. I saw James Brown in Aberdeen a few years back. I think my claim to fame was I actually saw the Velvet Underground. They
Oh,
reformed the 60s band that Lou Reed was the lead singer of. They actually played about 10 one off concerts in
okay.
1991. And
Mm,
amazingly, two of those 10 concerts were in Scotland, in the Edinburgh Playhouse, which is not a huge venue. Somehow a friend of mine got tickets for it. And the deal
brilliant.
was, as long as I drove from Aberdeen, I would get a ticket. So I drove quite happily. I saw the Velvet Underground, the original lineup, and I was quite something to say I've seen that. So probably
Oh, great.
my musical claims to fame.
Oh, class. That must have been something else. That
It
must have been
was,
brilliant.
it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
some experience.
yeah. And do you ever it's just something I started doing a couple of months ago. Listen to music while I write. Have you ever tried that yourself?
Do you know what? I know a lot of people like that. I prefer just silence.
Yeah.
I love music, but I find it a bit distracting when I'm writing.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
but as a lot of people would agree with you, Mark, a lot of people like that as well. I know
yeah.
my son studies with music on in the background. He's doing a bit of studying just now, and
Mm,
no, I just need sort of silence. In some ways, I wish I could listen to
yeah.
music because it sounds like a really nice idea, but
Mm.
I find is I end up listening to music and get distracted. So
Yeah, yeah,
I kind of
yeah.
like silence when I'm writing
Mm.
actually.
Like I used to be the exact same as you, Tanya, and then just one day I was just listening to music with no lyrics, and I found that
Ah,
like I got in the flow. It's just something I tried, and I just been doing it lately, you know. Yeah, yeah,
well, it's interesting. You said music with no lyrics. Maybe that's a key to do that.
mm,
Maybe we'll try it again.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. Something different, all right. No,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's a nice lineup of bands there. Very, very
Aha.
similar to myself. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, that's
And
good. That's good.
yeah, great stuff. And do you have any favorite movies you like to watch when you're relaxing? Any kind of favorite films?
I like watching films. Yeah, I like watching films. Probably my favorite films are. I love watching the spaghetti westerns,
Oh,
the old
cool.
Clint
Yeah,
Eastwood
brilliant.
films.
Yeah.
Probably my two favorite films are the Blade Runner films. I think I
Mm,
like the older one better, but the modern one, the part two, is very good as well.
yeah.
In fact, that was a good book as well. Blade Runner, the actual book's called "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep" by Philip
Wasn't that
K. Dick.
Philip K. Dick? Yeah, he was a
Yeah,
great
that's
author,
right.
wasn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah, he
Yeah,
was. He
brilliant. Yeah,
was. Yeah.
yeah,
So I love those films, the Blade Runner films as well, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which was another great book, which I've read as well. It
yeah.
was a
That's
great
right.
film. In fact, I think the
Yeah.
film was maybe it's one of the few films that were better than the book. The book was very good, but the film was fantastic.
Mm,
So
that's
I
right.
like
Yeah,
that kind of films. Yeah. The
yeah,
Godfather, another good film.
yeah.
An even
Right.
better
Yeah.
book. The Godfather, the book is fantastic. If you've ever read The Godfather, what a book that is.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The one that must.
Oh,
That's one of the book for the bucket list story.
I
Yeah.
would say it's definitely one for the list. The Godfather is a phenomenal story.
Mm,
Brilliant book. Brilliant book.
yeah, yeah. Great stuff. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and where do you like to travel on holidays yourself? Where do you like to go on holiday?
Yeah, I enjoyed traveling. I enjoyed traveling a lot, and more often than not, I holiday in Scotland actually.
Okay,
Been a
yeah, great.
huge fan of the Northwest Highlands of Scotland. Very
Mm,
remote. There's a place called Assynt, which is a large area in the Northwest Highlands, just north of Liverpool, and I've kind of gone there since I was well, actually since pretty much the day I was born. I was about 6 weeks old. My mum and
all
dad used
right.
to take us out caravans, and I kept that tradition going with my own friends, and then when I got married and had kids, we started taking them there, and we still go up there every
Brilliant.
year. And in the moment, me and my wife were trying to go around all the islands of Scotland. So I was in Shetland
Mm,
earlier this year, Orkney last year. I'd like to go out to the Outer Hebrides, which I haven't been to yet. So I enjoy that. And yeah, I've never been to Ireland yet, I'm ashamed to say. That's on my
yeah.
list, Ireland. I want to get to Ireland. And I'd like to see all
Oh,
the British Isles,
yeah.
Ireland, Northern Ireland. I've holidayed a few times in
Mm,
Northern England. Don't really know
mm,
Southern England at all. So but abroad, I've had a couple of trips to America, and as a
mm.
student, I travelled around Europe as well. Enjoyed that as well. But
Brilliant. Yeah.
more often than not, I'm a home bird. I'm somewhere in
Mm,
Scotland on my holidays.
yeah. That's one place I want to go to myself to Scotland. I haven't been to Scotland before. It's
You'll
one
enjoy
to
it.
go to as well. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate you coming on today, Tane. So what's next for yourself? Are you nearly finished your next book, or
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I'm already fine. I'm quite busy the sort of, I suppose, the publicising of the current book, and it's going to get busier in November, December, January, February as well. I'm looking forward to that. At the same time, I'm trying to fit in time to finish the second book, and I'm in halfway through chapter 4 of that book, and I kind of imagine there being 10 chapters, so I've still a bit of work to do in that, and maybe aim to finish that. Well, I had thought Christmas, but I think that's slipping a bit already. But certainly by February, March time, I'd like to finish that book, and I'm hoping Kohler will publish that as well. So that's part of the deal at the moment. So hopefully that'll be something that'll come out next year, or probably the year after, actually now. But yeah, so just try to keep going. Hopefully, do the best I can with this book and get it out there to as many people, and hopefully it inspires people to read it and keep going with the next book, and just stay positive as ever and keep going.
yeah, that's great, Tane. No, thanks very much. If I could just ask you before you go, the last question, if you could kind of give the listeners a little bit of advice from your own experience in writing, um, what's best way to keep themselves motivated in your experience in the writing?
Yeah, well, I'm just a great believer. Maybe some of the things that I took from the leadership side of things, and to a certain degree, Buddhist side of things, is certainly a lot of the leadership stuff I did. Just talk about self-talk. So if you've got negative self-talk, I'm going to have a bad day today. You'll probably have a bad day today. I'm going to have a good day today. You'll have a good day today. It's in its
Yeah.
simplest form. I think it's keep keep that positive, positive track. You just never lose sight of that. It's a marathon. Writing a book is how I felt. It's not a sprint. You just have to set yourself. I've set small goals and try and enjoy every challenge. Where do I go with this character? Where do I go with this? It's not, don't let them defeat you. It's part of the fun of the process, trying to work your way through these things. And little but often, I try and I had these periods with my health where I had to put it down for a few weeks, but a general rule, I try and write a little bit and often, and try and help it. Try and keep it joyful. It should be something you enjoy doing. It's not a chore. Um, just try and keep that spirit to it. Maybe it's a Buddhist side of it, just being grounded, letting life unfold. Whatever comes next is what comes next. And yeah, I think to get a joyful approach to writing, little and often, and just try and enjoy the process. Before you know it, ching, 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 a little bit every day, 300 words, 100 days down. That's a lot of words.
Brilliant, Tane. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on. I wish you all the success in your book. Like, make sure you send the link when it goes live, and I'll put it up on the show notes then.
I'll do that. Absolute pleasure to be on your show, Mark. I really appreciate you asking me on. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I hope it's of interest to others, and I hope it is. I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much, and all the best for your future writing and your podcast as well.
Thank you, Tane. Thanks very much. So that was Thane Lawrie, everybody. Once again, thanks a million for coming on. And thanks for tuning in, everybody, to Mark's Motivational Podcast for another Authors Tuesday. So join us again next week for another author. Take care. Thanks again, Thane.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Mark here. Thank you for watching another episode of my Authors Tuesday podcast. I recently published a book of children's stories called The Adventures of Larry Lamppost and Friends. The book began life as bedtime stories I wrote for my own children. If you'd like to purchase my book, follow the link in the description box below. By buying my book, you are also supporting my podcast series for authors, which is giving a voice to writers in Ireland and across the world.